Hello, and welcome to Badger Talks Quick Picks, which brings exciting happenings, resources, and talent from your UW flagship campus to the people of Wisconsin and beyond. My name is Molly McKellar, and I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado. I just started my junior year, and I'm double majoring in atmospheric oceanic science and math in the Department of L&S. I'm pleased to introduce Chris Vigaski, who will speak on measuring the weather in Wisconsin. If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. We often hear that phrase in Wisconsin, though it applies to most of the United States. The new Wisconsin Environmental Mesonet is helping Wisconsinites monitor Wisconsin's weather. Learn more about what it takes to measure Wisconsin's weather extremes every 5 minutes with the manager of Wisconet. Chris Vigaski is a meteorologist and the research program manager for Wisconet, where he manages the day-to-day operations of the quickly growing weather station network. He has more than a decade of experience working with meteorological measurements and lightning data. Chris is often called upon by groups around the world for advice on lightning safety and deploying meteorological measurement equipment. Please welcome Chris Vigaski.
Thank you, Molly, for that introduction, and thank you to everybody who is listening today and watching this today. And I'm here to talk about how we measure Wisconsin's weather. And as Molly alluded to, you know, they always say if you don't like the weather in Wisconsin, just wait 5 minutes. Well, here's how we know how that weather changes every 5 minutes. I'm going to talk to you today about Wisconet, the Wisconsin Environmental Mesonet. But first, let's talk a little bit about Wisconsin's wild weather. In 2024, we've had 44 tornadoes. That's almost twice the annual average. And here's a picture of one of those tornadoes that I got from my back deck in Fort Atkinson back in May. Luckily, most of these tornadoes have been generally weak, EF0 to EF1 on a scale that goes from 0 to 5, where 5 is the worst. But still, that's a lot of tornadoes for a single year. Through August of 2024, it's been the third warmest and the third wettest year on record across Wisconsin. This data comes from the National Centers for Environmental Information. You can take a look at all of this information at the link there at the bottom of the screen. And I'll have a lot of links with my various slides today so that you can actually see all of this data as it comes in real time. So it's been quite warm. It's been quite wet across Wisconsin in 2024. But that warmth and that wetness, it doesn't always translate the way you think it will. And across Wisconsin, we found out the hard way in 2024 with the snowmobiling season and the ice fishing season. It didn't really come across the way we would expect to see it in the winter across Wisconsin. The snowmobile trails were only open for a week or two. The ice fishing was really poor. And you can see this map showing snowfall across Wisconsin during the 2023 to 2024 season. Very low snow totals, especially across northwestern Wisconsin, where some parts of the state didn't even see 2 feet of snow. So it was a really low snow season for Wisconsin. So again, this is just some of the ways that we see the weather on a day-to-day basis. But how do we really measure that weather? Well, here's a snapshot of a few of the thousands of weather observations that occur across the United States every day. There is a large network of airport weather stations and remote automated weather stations that have been deployed by the US government to monitor weather for aviation, for public safety, for wildfires. And we get a lot of information every 5 minutes and every hour from this. And there are other weather observers out there that are collecting data and sharing that data so that we know exactly what's going on in your own backyard. Now, there's a lot of other networks out there that are run by state universities and other organizations, and we call those mesonets. Mesonet is really all about measuring weather on the meso scale, which is a relatively small scale on the order of tens to hundreds of miles. And that's what Wisconet is. It's a new statewide weather station network that's being deployed across Wisconsin. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So where does Wisconsin stand now in terms of weather monitoring. We're going to look at it from three different perspectives. The first is that airport weather station network that I mentioned earlier. These are operated by NOAA, the National Weather Service, and the Federal Aviation Administration. There are about 85 of them across Wisconsin. They measure things like winds at 10 meters, temperature and humidity at 2 meters, as well as the atmospheric pressure, how much precipitation has fallen, the visibility, what kind of weather is occurring. But these are almost exclusively at airports because they support aviation. Next is the remote automated weather stations. Those are the RAWS networks that are run by the U.S. Forest Service and the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources. These, again, will measure winds, temperature, humidity, precipitation, but they also add things like solar radiation, fuel moisture, so how dry are sticks, how dry is the grass, things that could burn. These are used to support wildfire forecasts. This data comes in every hour, and there are about 35 of those across Wisconsin. And now we'll talk about Wisconet. Wisconet is operated here at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. We are measuring about 22 parameters every 5 minutes. Things like wind speed and wind direction, the temperature, the humidity, barometric pressure, precipitation, solar radiation, soil moisture, soil temperature, and leaf wetness. We have these across the state, and when we have fully deployed Wisconet, we'll have the widest distribution of any of these three networks, and we'll show that in a minute or two. This data will all come in every 5 minutes and be deployed out to the public and out to those who need this critical weather data. And we'll end up with around 90 weather stations by the time we're all said and done. So here's a map showing where our weather stations are right now. Those are the dots that are in red. And then the white dots are where we currently have an idea of where we'll be installing weather stations in the future. And you see there still are some blank spots. So if you're in a county where you don't see a dot, feel free to reach out to us if you have a potential location of where we could install a weather station, because we are still looking for new weather station locations. So we've installed weather stations at places like family farms and dairy farms, at cranberry bogs, municipal centers, land conservancies, apple and cherry orchards, middle school, county forests, even an observatory. So while people are looking out into space, they can even look at what the weather is in their own backyard. We're also looking to deploy weather stations in the future at some of our national forests, at national lake shores, more family farms, public and private airports, and other municipal facilities. So you can see there is a really broad distribution of where our weather stations are being deployed. And this is all to support all of the day-to-day operations that Wisconsinites see on a daily basis. So whether it's making improved farming decisions or just knowing what to wear on a daily basis, do you need a coat? Do you need to take the umbrella with you? All of this data is going out to the public for you to make those decisions. Now, what does one of our weather stations look like? With a very wide distribution, it's possible that you may run into one of our weather stations. And it's a 10-foot tall tripod that has various arms and sensors hanging off of it. I've labeled each one of those sensors here. This is one of our weather stations in Clear Lake, Wisconsin. And up at the top of the mast, you'll see a wind speed and direction sensor that's called an anemometer. We have a pyranometer, which measures solar radiation, a thermometer and a hygrometer. Those measure temperature and relative humidity, a barometer to measure air pressure, as well as then leaf wetness sensors, soil moisture and temperature sensors, and a rain gauge to measure liquid precipitation. All of this data is being collected every 5 minutes and transmitted back to us. I'll show you how we collect all of that data shortly, but all of this data is then transmitted in real time to support weather forecasts, weather warnings, for farm decisions. Do you need to irrigate? Do you need to apply pest control? Do you need to apply disease control? And to help people just make any other decision they need to make. Do I want to go to the park today? Can I ride my horse on the trails? Is the ground going to be too wet? Is the ground going to be too dry or too warm to accomplish the things that I want to do? So this is the most comprehensive weather station that is available in Wisconsin right now, because we collect data from 3 feet below the ground to 10 feet above the ground, something that none of the other weather stations that is in Wisconsin does. So how does that data get from our station to you? Well, we collect all of that data on these self-reliant weather stations. They run on solar power and battery, and that data is transmitted through the cell signal. We use a Verizon cell modem to transmit that data back to campus here in Madison, where we have a hosted platform called Network Manager that allows us to collect all of the data, analyze the data, make sure it's good, and then transmit it to the internet, to our website, which I'll give a link to in a slide or two. The data, after it's on the website, is then transmitted out to you through apps, through your phone, through your iPad, or on a desktop browser. So you can see our website, wisconet.wisc.edu, or just scan the QR code that's on the screen. And it takes you to our website where we have as much data as you could want. We'll have data maps and data displays for each of our stations. So you can see where all of the weather stations are, what they're reporting, and then you can dive into the nearest weather station to you to see exactly what's happening in your neck of the woods. On the image on the right here, this is our weather station at a county forest in Arthur. And you can see different things like the air temperature, the relative humidity, soil temperature, soil moisture, atmospheric pressure. Anything that is related to the weather or the soil, we're collecting that data and sharing it with you. So you can see exactly what we're collecting every 5 minutes. Now, say you want to go back in time and look at how has the weather been in the previous week. Now, this is an example of a meteogram, and a meteogram is just a way to display data on a timeline. So this is our station in Greenwood, Wisconsin, showing temperature and relative humidity as well as rainfall over a week period between August 24th and August 31st, where several inches of rain fell at this station in Greenwood. But you can see the rise and the fall of the temperature between day and night, how the humidity changed, and you can see high relative humidity during periods of precipitation. When it's dry, a little bit lower relative humidity. So all of this data is available for you to visualize and analyze to your heart's content. You can download historical data from us. We collect data all the way back to the beginning of the weather station install, and that data is available for you to look at and analyze for research or just out of curiosity. We collect that data 5 minutes, and then we provide hourly and daily accumulations of that data as well. And I can't express enough how important it is to thank everybody who's been involved in this program over the last year and a half. We have a great team working for us. Caitlin, Michaela, Molly, David, Izzy, and Chris. They all support everything that I've been doing on a daily basis to make sure that the data that we collect and get out to you is the highest quality data and will always be the highest quality data. And we couldn't have done it without the support of the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation or the USDA Rural Partnerships Institute. They've provided funding and support for us to be able to install these weather stations and make sure that they're always up and running. So again, if you want to visit our website, you can scan this QR code or visit us at wisconet.wisc.edu and reach out to us if you have any questions about the data, about the stations, or if you have a site where you think a good weather station location would be. So thanks again for listening. Really appreciate it. And visit Wisconet.